Hey guys, Lee aka Cosmic Cat here, and I decided to make a video today comparing the three different types of whips available on the market. And I wanted to do this because I've seen some people in the Dancing with Lightning group, especially new members coming in, asking, oh, what type of whip should I buy? And I know that there are some comparison charts in the group files, but I thought it might be good just to have kind of like a live demo comparison, just have them all side by side for you guys, and just try to go over like the pros and cons of each whip. So the first whip I'm going to talk about today is going to be the Bit Whip from Ants on a Melon. And this is the first whip that I started out with, so this one has a special place in my heart. And I chose this whip in particular because I was really fascinated with the color modes. I think that the color modes on this whip are just beautiful, and you can't really get those color modes with the other two whips. So that's why I ultimately went with this whip. Now I have the Orbit, which has a rotating head, and I actually prefer the rotating heads for my flow style. I find it's a lot easier to do body tracing with that, but just, for my personal flow style, I like the rotating heads a little bit better. But Ants on a Melon also does offer non-rotating heads, and with those options you can actually get thicker bundles with more fibers like the Galaxy. They also offer a double-sided whip, and you can get some really fun attachments for that as well, such as lightsabers. And I know that there's a few videos in the group of people using those, so check those out. So I'd say that the only downsides to this whip are the battery life. The battery life is kind of short. I typically get anywhere from like an hour to an hour and a half per a single battery. And just one pro tip, if you know that you're running out of battery, or if you're just trying to make it last as long as possible, just use it on the red solid mode, and that's going to conserve the most energy and make it last the longest. The other downside to this whip is the battery change. I know a lot of people take issue with that. They don't really like the complexity of the battery change, but since I've owned this whip for such a long time and I've changed the battery so many times, it's kind of like second nature for me. So, I personally don't think it's that difficult, and I can just show you guys really quick how you do it. So this whip is operated by one side button. And it's basically held together by this rubber button here that holds the whole entire housing unit together. Okay, so first thing I'm going to turn it off, and that's 3 clicks in a row, which can sometimes be difficult. And then when I'm changing the battery on my Bit Whip, I always unscrew the fiber head. Right, so we're gonna remove the rubber button, and it's very important, don't lose it, so I suggest putting it in your pocket. I also suggest ordering several of these. They're only about 50 cents each, but the last thing you want is to lose your 50-cent rubber button and not be able to flow at a festival. That has happened to me before. So stick this in your pocket, and then the next thing you're gonna do is you're going to just let the flashlight slide right out from the housing. Okay. And now you're going to just slide out the board from the flashlight, and then you're left with the board and your battery. Okay, so you just pop out the battery. So the Bit Whip takes a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, and it's about the size of a AAA battery. I suggest ordering them straight from the Ants on a Melon website, and you want to also order several of these, especially if you're planning on taking it to a festival because of the short battery life. And so once you're ready to reinstall your charged battery, you're just going to pop it in, and you'll notice that when you do that, the light will change from red to green to blue. And that basically means that you have a good battery. So you always want to test that you have a good battery before you put the entire housing back together, because as you've seen, it is a little bit of a process. Okay, so once you have your charging battery in there, you're going to put the board back into the flashlight, making sure that you line up the button with the hole. Okay? Then you're going to slide the flashlight into the housing unit, making sure that the two holes kind of line up with each other. And this is something you can kind of feel with your fingers, especially if you don't have a lot of light. And then you'll take your trusty rubber button and you will slide it back in the side of the housing. So I don't really think that changing the battery on these is really that difficult. It's just a little time consuming. But I think that once you do it a few times, you'll get the hang of it. And I don't think it's really such a big deal. Now the other thing to note about this particular whip is the handle is, out of the three, the handle is the heaviest. So you'll just want to keep that in mind if you're interested in doing fiber wielding and rope dart moves. They're still very possible to do. I've done them and other members have done them. It's just something to keep in mind. And as with any fiber wielding and rope dart moves, you always want to initially practice with a soft prop, such as a long sock with a tennis ball at the end. So overall, it's a really good, durable, sturdy whip. The company is really great, and it's a great whip overall. So now I'm going to move on to the Fiberflies. So I have a Rev 3. Right now, the most updated version available is the Rev 4, which has some updated color modes. And I know that John Everett is currently working on the Pulse, and I know we're all eagerly awaiting that. But this is the Rev 3, and compared to the Bit Whip, this one actually has less fibers because of the structure of the internal components. It just can't hold as many fibers as the other whips. But you'll see that this is a lot brighter than the Bit Whip, so that's really nice. I strongly recommend purchasing the foam padding for the handle. It's really nice to protect you when you're doing those rope dart fiber wielding moves, and it's also good for sweaty hands. To change the battery is fairly easy. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to slide my foam grip up the handle, and then I'm just going to simply unscrew the bottom. This, out of all the whips, is by far the easiest battery change. And you're just going to pop the battery out, and you'll see, although this is also a rechargeable lithium-ion battery, like the Bit Whip, it's much larger. So that means it's going to last a lot longer, which is really great for weekend festivals. I think I usually get away with just bringing 2 batteries per whip, maybe charging them once. So that's probably the best part about this particular whip. And like the Bit Whip, it operates with a single side button. Overall, it's just a really great whip, and I really like it for the battery life and the overall ease of use. So I probably would recommend this particular whip for a beginner just because it's so easy to use. And then last but not least, I'm going to talk about the Space Whip Pro by GoFX. Compared to the other whips, when it comes to the amount of fibers, the Space Whip Pro has about the same number as the Bit Whip, but again, the Fiberfly is going to have the least amount. Okay, and across the board, all of the fibers are relatively the same as far as their thickness and durability and all that. I've seen some people saying, oh, well, the fibers on this whip break really easily. It really just all comes down to your care of the fibers and how you're using them. How rough you're using them. Are you hitting sharp objects and stuff like that? So across the board, the fibers are really all the same. Now, when it comes to the battery change is going to be very similar to what we did for the Fiberflies. So you're just going to unscrew this bottom piece right here, and then the batteries pop out. You'll see that there are 3 AAA batteries in this one housing unit, okay? And then so you'll change out your batteries. You'll put this back in, and it's very important when you're lining these back up that both of these metal pieces align with each other when you are lining it back up to screw it in. And if you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult to screw the bottom part back in. Just a pro tip, I found that out the hard way. Also, this handle features a nice loop on the end, which could come in handy if you want to do some double poi work or just attaching it to your person. It comes with a thin textured rubber grip, which, you know, it's not going to be as thick as the foam padding on the Fiberflies, but it will offer some protection from slippage and sweaty hands. Unlike the other 2 whips, this one is operated by both a side button and the master control at the bottom to turn it on and off. A unique feature about this whip in particular is that it has a programmable mode. So you basically can choose 3 colors from the available colors in the whip, and you can program them and then change between various modes using those 3 colors. So it's kind of a unique feature with this whip that the other ones don't have. There is a little bit of a learning curve with this, just, you know, learning how to program the colors and how to get in and out of the various settings. But, you know, again, once you just get the hang of it, it's not too difficult. And as far as the brightness, I think the brightness is pretty comparable to the Fiberflies, and I think on some of these flashier modes, it might even be a little bit brighter than the Fiberflies. But this is definitely going to be your flashiest whip out of the 3. And it also is pretty convenient that it uses just regular AAA batteries, so that if you lose your batteries or if you're traveling, it's really easy to get more batteries for this whip. So that's basically my review of the 3 whips and the pros and cons for each. I love all of my whips. It's really hard for me to pick a favorite. So it really just depends on your personal preference, and it comes down to your flow style and what type of visual effect that you want to create. So I'd say that the Bit Whip is really great for people who like the color modes that it offers, and people who just want to use it at home or local shows. I'd say that the Fiberfly is really, really good for festivals, really good for beginners because it's so easy to use. And the Space Whip Pro is also really good for festivals because it just uses regular batteries, and it's probably just going to be the flashiest out of the 3 whips. But I love all my whips. They're all lots of fun to use. And again, it really just comes down to your personal preference. So I really hope that this video helps you guys. And if you have any questions at all for me, just post those in the comments below this video and I'll answer those as soon as I can. I wish all of you the best of luck in your light whipping journeys. Love and light to all of you, and I hope that you all take really, really good care.